if those aren't terribly complicated. Moving on to thaumaturge, which I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. But the main sort of class feature of thaumaturge is their umbral ice or astral fire mechanic. Umbral ice is a buff you get when casting blizzard spells. And you see the tooltip there. Ethereal balance of mind and spirit is leaning umbrally. Fire aspect spells require less MP but do less damage. MP regeneration is quickened. You're like, alright, that's interesting. It's a buff that gives me more MP but less damage. And if we take a look at the astral fire side of things, ethereal balance between mind and spirit is leaning astrally. Fire aspected spells require more MP but do more damage. Ice aspected spells require less MP but do less damage. MP regeneration has stopped, which is a good thing to point out. So you do lots of damage but you're gaining absolutely no MP. And then Umbral Ice, you're not really doing a whole lot of damage. But let me tell you, you're getting a heck of a lot of MP back. I'm level 15 at this point. Yeah, it says that there. Going to stack Umbral Ice will restore about half of my MP on the first sort of tick of Umbral Ice. How do you go from one to another? If I'm leaning umbrally, if I have Umbral Ice applied to me, I cast a fire spell. That'll bring me to neutral. And I cast another fire spell to bring me to this astral fire. Later on, and I haven't gotten to this point on my particular thaumaturge, but it will stack, so you'll get another stack of astral fire, meaning you'll have to cast 2 fire spells. So you neutral, cast fire, astral fire 1. Cast fire, astral fire 2. And you're thinking, well, what if I need to get to astral ice, or umbral ice quicker? Because I'm really running out of mana. You really don't gauge just how fast. You can see my mana is right depleted there. Less than a third of my mana. Isn't there any way I can do that quicker than, like, do I have to cast 2 ice aspected spells? And even though they have much highly reduced costs, you want to minimize your downtime of doing less damage, right? You want to maximize your damage output. That's what a thaumaturge does. So there's this other thing called transpose. Swaps astral fire with a single umbral ice, or umbral ice with a single astral fire. So this allows you to stack it up either way quicker. I would assume, because again, I only have the 1 stack, so this is, while it's helpful, it doesn't really affect until you're able to stack that up twice. I would assume you would use it to go into Umbral Ice, and then before it comes up on cooldown again, you should have your MP back. I'm only level 15, and I haven't really grouped with it yet, so I don't have a super huge feel, and you can't see. It's hard to determine what your party members are spending MP on. But so the idea behind maximizing a thaumaturge's DPS comes from managing this astral fire and umbral ice mechanic. There's also certain times where you don't want to cast a lot of fire. You know, your fire spells, your spells aren't going to do a whole lot in the end. So, you know, you have to recognize those times to get into umbral ice. And in the times when things are vulnerable, and you really want to burn them down to be in that astral fire. That's really the big feature of a black mage. Mini black mage, really. This is a thaumaturge. Again, just unconsciously, those FF11 things just slip right in there. So, thaumaturges aren't amazing DPS. They can't really catch an archer or a pugilist single target, but they're one of the few classes really that can AoE to a good degree. Blizzard 2 and Fire 2 are AoE abilities. And their limit breaks are also AoE. Currently they are the only class in the beta with an AoE limit break, and for those who don't know, limit break is a mechanic where when you're in a party of 4 or more, it'll be a bar up in the top left, and it will accumulate based on actions you and the party do, you know. Just dealing damage, going through a dungeon like you normally would, or a fight, you know, whatever it may be that you're having a party for. And then when it gets filled up, you get to use a limit break. For healers, it's an instant. For healers and archers, conjurers and archers, it is healing. And it's sort of a combat res, which is really handy. But the reason it's also on archers is because during huge stressful situations like this, when everyone's taking a lot of damage, when that limit break would be useful, you don't want to interrupt your healer, you know, trying to keep people alive. I really like that design, even if it's a little unsatisfying when playing archer, and your limit break just heals instead of does damage. I do love the design, though, that, you know, it's not all on the healer to hit that limit break. On Gladiator and Marauder, which are the two tanks of the game, that it's like a very big party to Rampart. Reduce damage on everyone in your party. Again, handy. It's not huge. Like, you're still going to be taking noticeable damage, but you're not going to be taking excessive damage. But for lancers and pugilists, you have massive single target damage, which tends to be what you use it for. If you have those people in your party, most limit breaks are going to be used for single target damage. The content so far is not terribly challenging. So really, the limit breaks are just gravy, just sort of bonus. The developers have stated this is intentional. They don't want people until 50, which is the level cap of the game, to really have to rely on limit breaks to get them through fights. Which I can sort of agree with, but the content really isn't challenging at all. The group content, there's some of the single target or single person missions are. Some of the class missions in the main story can be very hard until you get, you know, the one mechanic of that particular fight. But I also like that you don't necessarily have to be amazing at the game just to get things done. They have said that at level 50, you will require limit breaks to get through some fights. But I like that it's there, I like that you can use it. It's a sort of a fun mechanic. And the Black Mage, the Thaumaturge, I didn't know how bad it would be trying to break those habits of saying that. The Thaumaturge, getting back to what's on the screen here, is the only one with an AoE limit break. So that can be very, very, very handy in some of the fights. Even in some of the normal pulls, some of the harder ones have 4 or 5 monsters in them, and you could just burn them down. Because there's not a heck of a lot of sense saving them for really easy bosses to just sort of make them go quicker. While that's what tends to happen, it might be better to burn them on smaller poles just to make things easier. Alternatively, the Thaumaturge and later the Conjurer are able to sleep mobs. Here it's bound to number 5 on my skill bar there. You get it fairly early as a Thaumaturge, and sleeping things just makes it a lot easier. So that's why they don't do as much damage, say an Archer or a Pugilist, or probably even a Lancer. My Lancer is only 21, so I haven't really done a whole lot. I haven't gotten into sort of the meat and potatoes of the class. So it's really hard to judge and damage. But between Archer and Pugilist, they both do more damage than the Thaumaturge. But Thaumaturge offers AoE limit breaks and sleeping. That doesn't interrupt a Conjurer doing things. So there's a lot of utility that they bring to a group. Conjurers get repose, I believe sometime in the 30s. So they're also able to sleep things. You're not reliant on a Thaumaturge to sleep. That's something I think they sort of had as a design perspective on the game. Sort of a design goal is to make it so you don't necessarily rely on one class to do things. But to make each class unique. And each class does feel unique. I haven't done a lot of Marauder, but I mean, it's similar to Gladiator, and it should be because they're both the tanks of the game. But it is not the exact same thing. It's not, you know, until higher levels in World of Warcraft, for instance. Warrior and Death Knight were pretty similar. You just don't feel the same sort of similarity. When you're playing various classes, they feel different. And they all have their sort of unique mechanics. Sort of aside from Lancer, and maybe I just haven't played far enough for that. And I think that's it. If you've got any questions, to put them in the chat, but I'm pretty sure I've gotten through everything that I wanted to. I just sort of how to play each mechanic. There is one thing I did want to say. There is an Archer ability that increases damage by 20%. And we thought, oh, an Archer ability, that's not going to work on a damage dealer. I mean, that's not going to work on a mage. It's only physical damage, isn't it? But no. The Archer damage increasing ability will work on, you know, Thaumaturge or even Conjurer, really. So you can really pick and choose from various classes to come up with sort of the best build for you. If you find yourself taking aggro a lot, you can remove maybe damaging abilities that you're taking from other classes, replace them with defensive ones. You can really sort of compensate or strengthen based on your playstyle and your class, which is, I can't speak highly enough of that. Even things that aren't necessarily intuitive, again, like that Archer and the Thaumaturge thing.